let's get into Dame, the Lord, God Almighty, Mrs. and Mr. Sir Jacinda Ardern. I believe that's her full title now.
I think you forgot Doctor.
Doctor. Jacinda Ardern did a marvelous job on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. In America, Jon Stewart would be one of those yardsticks, right, that we were talking about earlier. And here's this thing about school lunches. I hadn't heard this before, especially when all we hear from this government is saving money, saving money, saving money. It sounds like to me that during COVID, when a disproportionate number of women were losing work, that the Labor government put more into the school lunches, not just to help the kids, but to help women be involved and get an income. It's only 20 seconds. It's a real almost throwaway comment, but have a listen because I'd never heard anyone say this before.
I remember during COVID, we were really worried about the number of women that were losing work because particularly you saw insecure jobs which were dominated by women that were really, really struggling. And so we put a food and schools program in knowing that part-time work would likely support women into the workforce. And so you try.
I mean, that's it. But it's like, I hadn't heard that before. And I just think, gosh, that would have been an interesting conversation for someone to talk to Mr. Seymour about when he was making it sound like just money, just money, just money. Yeah. And the previous government seemed to see it more as a social safety net as well as money, which I'd never thought about.
By the way, I would make an argument that it had a return. It had a return and good. David Seymour likes to harp on about school attendance. I can guarantee you there were kids, especially kids living below the poverty line in this country. A lot of them, those school lunches made the difference between whether or not they showed up to school that day.
Yeah.
So for David Seymour to target school lunches the way he did, while also clutching his pearls about attendance, characteristically gross. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I tell you something that Jacinda did that was brilliant on The Daily Show is gave a New Zealand company some of the best advertising it would ever get. Could you imagine Christopher Luxon doing this? You watch how slick this is and what she does to show the world an ambassador for New Zealand. This is the ambassador for New Zealand. Check this out.
So I went to say hello before the show, and it was lovely. And you have an enormous, in her dressing room, an enormous, I guess, posse, you'd call it.
There's two of them.
No. Let's be serious. You roll like Snoop. But she had laid out a lovely display of New Zealand chocolates on a plate.
So Jacinda bought New Zealand chocolate with her.
Yeah.
And left it in the dressing room, but we're not finished.
What is the name of the chocolate?
I think you'll find
for God's sakes.
Whitakers Hokey Pokey.
So I walk in, and she has a full display of Whitakers Hokey Pokey
I couldn't
Crunch.
put the whole block. It would have melted in my trousers, but I did bring.
And it was, and I have to say, delicious. But I didn't know if I was supposed to say like, "Wow, New Zealand, nice."
Could you just say that directly down?
Wow, New Zealand, great chocolate.
I mean, how that's not going to be all over probably already Whitaker's Facebook page. And, it does just lead into a conversation around the kind of person Jacinda is, the kind of leader she is. We often talk about sort of the idea of the CEO lingo and how unnatural it sounds, but that's the way you do it. I mean, that's the way to do it. It's brilliant. It's very, very well done. I mean, John Key went on some of these shows back in the day and he did the Letterman top 10 from memory. He just looked like a complete goose. This is natural. This is off the cuff. This has got Jon Stewart singing the praises of Whitaker. I would be amazed. Actually, we should do this. Google the Google searches for Whitakers in America and the 24 hours following that. They'll be significant. Sean?
I would kind of, one difference, like, regardless of what you think of Jacinda, you can't doubt she loves this country. Yeah. She loves New Zealand. And that is kind of, I feel like with this new government, because I've never been like a big patriot kind of, New Zealand pride, rah, rah. But if you were to be a patriot, if you were to be somebody who described yourself as patriotic, we have Christopher Luxon, who has spent the majority of his adult life in America. We have David Seymour, who is trying to import American and Canadian whatever ideology over here. We have Winston doing everything he can to leave this country. You can bet if there's a plane taking off, Winston's going to be on it. And I really kind of wish the left hit National harder on this. That, listen, we are for New Zealand. We make our decisions and policies based on the good of this country. You guys seem to be doing everything you can that is antithetical of New Zealand. You brought up the road signs before, and you talk about something so unpatriotic. Well, trying to being that dismissive of our history, of our Indigenous people, of the thing that makes us New Zealand. I don't think that gets spoken about enough. And her she has this moment on the worldwide stage. She's in front of the most beloved talk show host in decades, and she uses that to promote a New Zealand company. Jacinda Ardern is good at this, guys. Yeah. She's good at this. Regardless of what you thought of how she handled whatever, as a politician, as an ambassador for our country, she is good at this. So yeah, that's what I'll say on that.
Let's have a look at this video I cocked up. Let's have a look at her and Jon Stewart. They've just been talking about her dealings with Trump, and they get into a part of the conversation around the Christchurch shooting and the influence in society today of social media. Jon Stewart with Jacinda Ardern.
Imagine you had to deal with social media companies and all that because of what happened on Christchurch was public.
It was live streamed. It was live streamed. If you can imagine an attack as horrific as that, targeting Friday prayers to maximize the number of victims, and it was live streamed for 17 minutes.
And what was the attitude trying to contain that and get it pulled down? And was there a sense of them saying, yeah, we have a responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing actually that you can get agreement on. Everyone agrees that violent extremism and terrorism in the online environment is a bad thing. You can actually get some agreement. What's difficult is to get those who carry some responsibility to do something about it. And so...
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, that video was uploaded 1.5 million times onto Facebook. Once every second for the first 24 hours, it was uploaded onto YouTube. It was prolific. It was everywhere.
Right.
So some things have changed as a result. Some things have changed because of some of the work we did. But the pathways to radicalisation have got worse. And we can't sit by and do nothing and expect it will improve. We have to start taking responsibility for each of our own areas to change what is that radicalisation that is happening.
There you go. So there's the conversation on that. I mean, we've heard those sort of stories and numbers before, but to hear once a second for the first 24 hours onto YouTube of all places. Imagine if Twitter was owned by Elon back then, it would still be there. Like I haven't gone looking for them, but I guarantee you the Charlie Kirk shooting will still be on Twitter. Whereas what happened when it happened in New Zealand is the government worked with social medias and they went, get it down. I've said this before. I never read the manifesto, but someone sent me the manifesto to my Facebook inbox, and then it wasn't there because they worked with Facebook and they got it all taken out and taken down. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, Sean.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Pat?
I said I'm okay with that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's get to this. Is our last video for the night, and this is actually just once again, it's really funny, I think. Funny might be the wrong word. When we hear critics of Jacinda, especially particularly crusty ones here in New Zealand, who are still harking back to COVID and will never move past it, is how she's not empathetic. Still talking about empathy, still talking about that. And there's this lovely conversation between a man who lives in a country where part of his politics wants to stop talking about slavery, and part of his politics, not his politics, but the country's politics, want to leave up slave owners and horrific people as statues and not do something with them, to someone about how you actually do have to acknowledge your history. Acknowledging your history is something that engenders empathy in you. So this is, Jacinda's sort of bag at the moment, empathy and be kind, no matter what empathy and being kind. It's not It's not gone, even though some people in New Zealand seem to think that she's not empathetic, but it's not gone. So let's have a listen. It's only 60 seconds to this conversation.
We have sometimes a nostalgia for history that doesn't allow us to judge ourselves properly. And it's why it's so difficult that right now when we look and we say, like, gosh, we tell such a bad story about slavery, we should really lighten that up. You know, countries that can face their own dark histories have an opportunity to make those reforms.
And acknowledging your history,
Yes.
and acknowledging your history, and of course,
Yes.
New Zealand has a lot to acknowledge. Acknowledging your history is not an unpatriotic act. It's a way of saying, I love my country and I know it can be better. But the point I was trying to make before you brutally derailed it
Yes.
was that empathetic and right in these times.
Yes.
My view, the answer is empathetic leadership. It takes courage to be empathetic in these times. Yes. It is a courageous act to be optimistic in these times, but we need more of it, not less.
Absolutely.
And that's just to show one again how brilliant she is as a communicator. Jon Stewart is probably the most respected comedic commentator in the world, and she just took the piss out of him and made him laugh, whilst making a pretty brilliant point. So, acknowledging your history makes you patriotic.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty powerful statement, Sean.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. I don't think there's any kind of better sign of patriotism than acknowledging your history of kind of, you know, how far you've come, but also how far you've had to go. And I think her framing it that way is, I feel like it's something that the left need to appropriate. We need to make that our thing again.
I tell you what, I've been thinking about this the last couple of days. You hear a lot of people being really confused as to how the right for the last 10 years, I'm picking an arbitrary number, might be 7 years, might be 12 years, I don't know, have owned the free speech moniker. Mm-hmm. And they base it around the left, and it's really been around issues of gender and stuff, around the left, quote unquote, cancelling people or stifling conversation. Previous to that, the left was the home of free speech. Yeah. And I wonder, right, this is just a wondering out loud, not mark the time, mark the date. I wonder if purely because of what's happening with this, sorry to bring up his name again, but Charlie Kirk situation, and having the right literally turn into a 1984 Orwellian, if you don't say what we like, we're going to cancel your show, or you cannot report on this unless you put it through levels of authority first, that this might be the time that the pendulum swings back. Because I think that there's actually some fair criticism of the left for the last decade or so in squashing speech. Now, the speech has been ugly, but that's the only time you need protections on free speech, when the speech is ugly. But I just had this sense and this feeling that I wonder if this is the moment that the pendulum swings back and the left gets to re-own and to start to use again the benefits of free speech. Just some thoughts.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, I think the right was really censorious. Like, it actually kind of, my interest in politics began really with the Iraq War, following that. And if you'll remember, I was a kid when it happened. It was big news. Bill Maher on Politically Incorrect, him being kind of like the real kind of first victim of what we call modern cancel culture. His show Politically Incorrect was cancelled because of comments that were deemed insensitive in the aftermath of 9/11. You had the Dixie Chicks, country girl band or whatever. They came out against the Iraq War, same exact thing. And then somewhere along the way, a few racists got called out for making racist remarks, and they suffered consequences for it. Pat, if I were to sit here right now and make those same racist remarks, chances are I wouldn't have a job to come back to when my holidays are over. My holidays will probably be indefinite. It's the nature of the free market. It's the nature of capitalism. I've always seen cancel culture as kind of like an extension of capitalism. These people who've lost their jobs or have faced consequences for something insensitive that they've said. I don't really think if these people on Twitter, you know, it comes down to these were all business decisions. Like this is not a government using its power to end your career. And the careers, by the way, and Kimmel mentioned this in his speech, the careers of 100 other workers on the show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Little side note to that. You may or may not be aware of this, Whānau, but when Politically Correct got cancelled, that was when Jimmy Kimmel slid into that time slot.
Well, there you go.
So Politically Correct's cancellation led to Jimmy Kimmel's show. And I saw some of Bill Maher last week, and I think he said 24 years to the day of his cancellation, Jimmy Kimmel got cancelled. Got his show was cancelled.
It's weird, like that's so strange.
It is weird, eh? But sliding rooms. I actually just was thinking, someone was saying in the chat we should bring Jacinda on. I was lucky enough that when I was working in broadcasting, she was one of my weekly conversations. It was funny. At one stage, she was the leader of the Labour Party and Simon Bridges was the leader of the National Party. And when they were young MPs, they were my one each week. I had them on and had them in. So that means for me that I'm 2 degrees removed from Jon Stewart now. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll claim that and own that for the rest of my life. 2 degrees.